Hey everybody, Marcos Villegas here in Las Vegas, being joined by Teddy Atlas, and it's the Canelo versus Golovkin rematch fight week going on right now. Teddy, there's been a lot of speculation as to who holds the advantage in this rematch, a fight in which many boxing fans, a lot of which felt that Gennady won the first fight, though it was a close fight. Seeing what's happened, seeing that it's been a year since the rematch, who holds the advantage coming into this fight, you feel?
Well, I can tell you who the smaller guy is and the bigger guy is. I don't know who holds the advantage, but the first time we thought that Golovkin, obviously the natural middleweight, and Canelo moving up in weight, that Golovkin was the bigger guy. But when they got in the scale, and I remember saying on SportsCenter at the weigh-in, and a lot of people were like, gee, what is he saying? And I said, hey, the smaller guy looks like the bigger guy. You know, I don't know what it is. I don't know what he might be taking. And I even came out and I said, I know some people are going to say PED'S, whatever, because that's a natural thing to think. But I have no proof of anything. I just know my eyes have proof of who the bigger guy was, and it was Canelo. Now he's a smaller guy. So I know that. I know that that's the big difference. Canelo looks like the smaller guy now, which he was supposed to look like the first time. So what's going on? You know, and how will that dictate the fight? And of course, Canelo might be the smaller guy now, and that's people are going to say that's an advantage, obviously, for Golovkin. But Golovkin's a year older. You know, the funny thing about it, maybe they're geniuses, Golden Boys people, because I remember the first time when they were talking about making this fight 6 years ago, and I said it's not going to happen. People was like, Teddy, why is it not going to happen? I said, look, I'm not a genius, I'm not smart, I don't have a crystal ball, but I know business, I know boxing, and they're not going to take a chance. The Golden Boys not going to take a chance of the Golden Goose being killed by a guy who was dominant at that time, and was the bigger guy, looked like the bigger, stronger guy, in Golovkin. They're not going to do it. They're going to wait, and they waited, and all of a sudden Golovkin looked kind of ordinary in their eyes against Danny Jacobs, and all of a sudden the fight got made 4 years later, 5 years later, whatever it was. So maybe they really are geniuses, where they found out a way to make them get even older, where they allowed themselves to get suspended and more time to go by, and a whole year goes by, and now Golovkin, wow, he's a year older. Now he might really be old. And all kidding aside, I think that that's going to play out. I think Golovkin has been sliding a little bit, and you might see more deterioration in that way. But it's going to be interesting because you're going to see deterioration of potentially an older guy, again, with a guy who is smaller now than he was the first time. It's interesting.
As a boxing trainer, when you see someone who looked bigger in the first fight and they come in a significantly smaller and slimmer, what goes on through your mind, and what do you think, given how his physique looks, how he will fight in this rematch?
And listen, with everything that we know, with all the information we know and the history that we know, what do I think? I mean, what am I going to become, a BS artist suddenly at this point in my life? I mean, I think PEDs. I mean, what do you think? You might not say it because you want to, and other people might not say it because they don't want to be on the wrong side of anybody. But for me, if I'm asked an opinion, I have a responsibility to get straight to that opinion and say exactly what my experience can tell me in this sport of over 40 years. And when you talk about something that dramatic with, again, the accusations, and not just the accusations, he failed 2 drug tests, and you see him smaller. I don't know, they were saying about beef, right? You know, the Mexican beef was tainted and so. With all that money, buy some Kobe beef. You know, I mean, so all I know is something has changed. Something that was making his body bigger is no longer making his body bigger. You know, I know there's a lot of buffets in Vegas, but I don't think he ran into a bunch of buffets before the first fight.
I ran into those buffets. Take a look at me. You know, Teddy, one could say, with the first fight, the reason why he looked big is he could. But one could say that because the first fight, he was wanting to bulk up a little bit to handle the weight and the power of Golovkin. And with this rematch, he slimmed down because he knew that Golovkin had a lot of trouble with his movement, and he's had trouble with speed guys.
Coincidental, I guess. Coincident that he failed 2 drug tests, and suddenly he looks dramatically different. I don't know. Listen, we do all this stuff, testing in this sport, you know, with CAT scans and all kinds of testing, and now, you know, steroid testing. Maybe we should do polygraphs.
Well, they did the hair test. What did you make of that? Because the hair test was supposed to be comprehensive.
A lie detector test. Maybe we should do that. Maybe we should start doing that.
Well, there's the ways around polygraph tests too.
But it'd be another thing at least to get around, if they had to get around it, and another thing to judge with. But at the end of the day, it's pretty dramatic if you see the difference. And again, could he have been on a weight program? Yeah, yes. And which bulked him up? Yeah, I guess he could have. But to see this kind of a difference, and and why? Why would you? Because he was coming on late in that fight, most people would think. I thought he lost the fight, but Canelo being he. But he was coming on late, and why would you make such a dramatic change when you did pretty good in the fight? And a lot of people thought you did better than they thought, or he may have done better, because going into the fight, nobody knew if he could handle that step up in class and weight. And he found out. And I think that is a big, important thing in this fight, is the mental part, again, that he found out, he being Canelo, that he belongs. And that's important. That's important.
Yeah, knowing that he could take the punch, the best punch of this guy, and it didn't do much to him.
That he could handle that class, weight, everything that's involved in that statement. That he could handle that animal, that fighter. And going in now, knowing it, instead of fighting, because you could make an argument from a trainer standpoint that I thought he lost the early rounds, that he was trying to survive. So maybe he was trying to find himself. Do I belong? Am I okay in this fight? And then he found himself later. And then you would take that and you would think you could piggyback that into this fight, where he's going to continue from there, where he's going to continue to have shown the confidence that he found in that fight. But there's another thing too that's going on, another tangible. Of course, inactivity. People, we're talking about the age, we're talking about all those things, and we're talking about the size. But, Golovkin had a tune-up 4.5 months ago, I think it was, and of course it's been a year since Canelo. So that rust could show early. So
he's a young guy, though. Does it really factor in at that age?
A year? Yeah.
28?
A year? Yeah. I mean, at this level, that you haven't been in the ring, again, psychological, mental, been away that long, it factors into the point where I've seen guys that are inactive like that come into a fight and where it shows is a slow start. So now
he can't have a slow start against Golovkin, not a pressure guy like that.
I wouldn't suggest it. That's for sure. But and again, the age. Canelo, 28. You just said it. Golovkin 36, but Golovkin been showing some dissipation, I think. I think that's fair to say, and a little sliding. And now a year later, like I said earlier, how does that play out? How does that really show up, if it does show up? And again, when I talk about the age, I don't talk so much about just the chronological part of it. I talk about the amount of punches a fighter took, how many fights he's had, how many, tough fights he's had, and how many amateur fights. You look at Golovkin, he had 400 amateur fights. It's a lot. If it's going to show up, and all the pro fights he's had, if it's going to show up, it starts to show up around now.
My thing with that is I've always wondered, the guy won a silver medal, why doesn't he just box? If he just box, go back to his amateur pedigree and just box. If he did that, he'd have a lot easier time in these fights.
Well, now it's a different time, though. He wasn't 36 years old when he won the silver medal. So, it's a whole...
But those skills are still there. That pedigree's still there.
Listen, he does what he does. If you want to really get into it, what I think you're saying is that he hasn't been improving, that his skill level, his technique hasn't been improving in the last several fights. I'd probably have to say that might be right, that he hasn't been improving in that way. And maybe you could even say that, look, for all his greatness that's gotten him to this place, and he's been so dominant, maybe you could also say that he's more one-dimensional in his approach, and it's been a good one-dimension before people start tearing me apart out there.
The internet folks tend to do that.
Fine. I don't go on the internet, by the way, so I don't feel any of it, but I appreciate you.
Teddy's anti-internets.
Yeah, I kind of am. I'm a caveman, and
It's all good.
but you know, again, you got a, you know, you got a situation where, yeah, I think he's a little one-dimensional, Golovkin, but it's been a good one-dimension. It's worked for him, and you can make the argument that Canelo is a little more dimensional, and he's going to need all those dimensions, quite frankly. You know, his legs and ability to counterpunch, you know, his ability to switch it up a little bit, come get you, but at the same time set traps and, you know, do other things that, for the most part, Golovkin is kind of coming, knocking on that front door and trying to bulge his way in. But, and not bulge his way, that's not fair, he jabs his way in. But, you know, also, I think from the first fight, you saw where Golovkin seemed to have Canelo where he wanted him, right up against the ropes. And he didn't take it to the next phase. He let him off the hook. Time and time, I thought he won the rounds. I thought he got robbed. But time and time again, he had him on the ropes. It looked like he was ready to do more, and he stepped out.
Didn't want to get counterpunched.
But he wasn't getting counterpunched. That was the funny thing
I think
about
that
it.
maybe there might have been a hesitation due to that.
He stepped out, well, maybe, but after 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds, do you finally put it together in your head that, hey, maybe I should stay there? Or does your corner tell you, maybe I should stay there a little longer? You know, maybe. So he's in there, and then he leaves him off the ropes. And so the second time, does Golovkin look at those tapes? I look at tapes. You know, fighters should look at tapes, use everything, all the information available, right? Does he look at it and say, yeah, I'm going to do a little more. When I'm in the kitchen, I'm going to eat a little more. You know what I mean?
Not too much.
No, not too much. We don't want to get greedy. We don't want to be a gavone, right? But, yeah, maybe I'm going to eat a little bit more, you know? And also, one of the differences for me was Golovkin's punches, they were plain punches. What do I mean by that? There was no trickery to them. There was plain cold punches. You know, good punches, but plain cold punches. With a pretty good fighter, usually plain cold punches are going to be slipped. He's going to be able to get away. He's going to see them. He's going to be able to get away. A fighter at that level, supposed to be. And Canelo did. There was no trickery. There was, you know, the only trickery that I saw, or sophistication, I guess I would call it, that I saw with Golovkin in that area, other than just throwing cold punches, was when he timed the right hand over the jab of Canelo. Every once in a while, he would time them, and that was good. But other than that, I didn't see the trickery, you know, like acting like you're going to slip here and bang, throw here. You know, things just where a guy has a defensive prowess, you have to have a trick to get through that defensive prowess. I thought there was a little more, again, just a little bit more change of things and diversity in the approach of Canelo.
On an ending note, Teddy, who takes it then? With all that said, who's going to win on Saturday?
Canelo.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Canelo. I'm going to say that he gained confidence. He learned something from that first fight. And I'm going to say something that's probably quite strange to the ears of people, but doesn't mean I'm right, doesn't mean I'm wrong, just means where I'm coming from and what I'm thinking from my life, is that maybe he was on something, and maybe he's made terms with himself, and maybe for the first time in a long time, he's going to look inwardly and find out what he is, and that's powerful. So for the first time, maybe he's going to say, you know what, fig this. I'm a Mexican-born fighter. I've been a champion. I've been fighting since I'm 16 years old. I didn't get here for nothing. I got here for a reason. I got here because of me. It's about time I'm me. I'm going to look in the mirror. I'm going to be me. And if that's happening, like I think happens sometimes in this sport, I'll take Canelo.
All right, Teddy, it's always great talking with you, and it's still a I think a very close fight between the two fighters that happens this weekend, Saturday in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile Arena. Canelo versus Gennady Golovkin, part 2.